PlayStation continues to release classic games on its premium PS Plus service. Daxter, a PlayStation Portable title from 2006, has made its way to the PS4 and PS5. Never before released outside of the handheld, players can now enjoy the spin-off platformer on modern hardware. While it was nostalgic to revisit this title in 2024, the game is still plagued with problems from the era.
My history with the Jak and Daxter series isn't as strong as Sly Cooper or Ratchet and Clank.
I was formally introduced to the series thanks to my best friend Damien. After he got me into the Ratchet and Clank series, he showed me Naughty Dog's platforming mascots for the PS2. I've always seen Jak and Daxter games at GameStop, but never pulled the trigger on the series. I was too busy buying some licensed games or something else as a kid. When I got around to playing Daxter, I was excited because it actually gave me something to play on my PSP. I didn't play a ton of games on the handheld and my collection is still rather small.
However, I was very happy with this spin-off game.
Developed at Ready at Dawn, composed of former Naughty Dog and Blizzard employees, this was its first game. Only a year after the launch of the PSP, this was going to be a console seller. Received very well by critics and players alike, it pretty much brought a PS2 platformer onto the handheld. I haven't touched this game since I played it on my PSP back in 2007-2008. I didn't have a reason to revisit it, alongside my PSP still needing a new battery.
I'm pretty much replaying this game for the first time as I've forgotten almost everything that's happened before. Is this game worth checking out again for $10? Let's talk about it.
Daxter on the PS5 is great and for sure the most accessible way to play the platformer. There's a ton of charm that keeps the mainline series alive here with fun platforming challenges. The biggest problem with this game is the fact that it was originally on the PSP and this emulation can only do so much to improve it. The story takes place during the 2-year jump at the start of Jak 2. After Jak gets arrested in Haven City, Daxter must find a way to rescue his partner in crime while getting to know his new surroundings. It's simple and works for a solo Daxter adventure. I honestly love it when games or other pieces of media fill in time jumps. It contextualizes what other characters may have been doing during the time, and Daxter fills that role very well. Granted, I don't remember anything from the Jak and Daxter games story-wise, but you really don't need to know, other than that Jak and Daxter are best buds and the orange Otzel needs to save him. You meet a lot of new characters along your way, notably Osmo, who recruits Daxter to kill bugs for his extermination company. The main villain, Caden, is very one-note. He only confronts Daxter at the final 2 hours of the game, and when he's on screen, he's so over the top. Like, he literally blows up Osmos' business after a short meeting. How did he get that bomb under the table? I will never know. Then he ends up turning into a giant bug for the final battle. Like, he's just such a bizarre villain. I kind of love it. All the other characters and humor meet the same standards for the Jak and Daxter series, probably because Naughty Dog helped produce this game, unlike The Lost Frontiers, which, we don't talk about that game. The gameplay ties back to his new job as an exterminator. You're tasked to clear areas of bug infestations, all while looking for Jak. You'll use different sprays to defeat enemies and the fly swatter for melee combat, starting off with gas to stun bugs for a brief second before moving on to fire and ultrasonic. The spray gun can also be used to travel across large gaps and assist in platforming sections. The gas spray is very basic, while fire/ultrasonic will send Daxter higher up and travel further. I very much enjoyed using the spray gun throughout Daxter. It gave the orange Otzel an appropriate and useful tool to defeat enemies. The melee combat is very basic. You're just mashing the square button, especially early in the game. You can later unlock combos by completing these dream sequences after collecting enough precursor orbs. Even then, using the spray gun is more useful if you have enough ammo, of course. You'll definitely want to use the spray gun in most scenarios compared to the bug swatter because there's no invincibility frames after getting hit. So you indeed can get wombo comboed by a group of bugs and die immediately. The dream sequences are quick time event minigames that unlock the additional combos and more health. They're fun to complete with story mission minigames following a similar pattern. In the dream sequences though, they rip off popular movie franchises like The Matrix for the minigames to come to life. They're charming and would definitely be something Daxter would dream up of. My main gripe with the gameplay is the fact Daxter was on the PSP, which makes the controls feel stiff. The The best part about the PS4/PS5 re-release is being able to use the right analog stick for the camera. In case you didn't know, because the PSP doesn't have a second analog stick, the camera control for most games was delegated to the L and R buttons, which worked great for the time. You can still use the shoulder buttons for the camera if you wish, but the right analog stick feels more natural for a console experience. Even so, the camera does not move the smoothest and can get messed up from time to time. The platforming itself is fine. Some of the level design is outright fantastic and really challenges you during certain sequences. I felt a bit floaty and will sometimes miss jumps because of how Daxter moves. Thankfully, this version has emulation features, including a rewind mechanic which I used a ton. Even though there isn't a live system to keep track of like in Slide 1, the checkpoints can be unforgiving. So if I make a small adjustment to make the platform or outright finish the level, I will gladly rewind. Rewinding fixes this flaw with Daxter, which makes moving along your playthrough a lot smoother. Controls for the vehicles can be tricky as well. I'm not expecting GTA levels of control here, but controlling any of the vehicles for story missions can be frustrating at times. Or I'm just outright bad. Either one. Boss fights, when you're not chasing after a bug in a vehicle, are fantastic. The ones where you are directly controlling Daxter bring a good amount of challenge, balancing the spray gun usage and platforming. The final boss especially has so many platforms that you need to leap across to land the final blow. Exploration in Daxter is very minimal. I didn't do that much of it. There are some collectibles to look out for, but I didn't really stress myself out with it. How to get from point A to point B, it can be tricky sometimes because there's no minimap once you enter an area. If you get lost or forget if you explored it already, good luck, have fun, because the game doesn't really give you direction. I got lost in the lumber mill, and during this section, this is when I remembered that I got lost playing this game on my PSP way back in the day in multiple areas. This became especially apparent when you have to go through the teleporter, and the game asks you which area you want to go to. I don't know, man, just pick the one that advances the story. The precursor orbs are fine collectibles, but the hit detection on them is so exact, it makes collecting them annoying. The spray refills automatically go to Daxter if he's close enough. Why couldn't the same be done for the orbs? This is very noticeable when you're climbing and the orbs take a second to be collected. Super finicky for no reason. Still, the gameplay for Daxter is a ton of fun. It's an impressive 3D platformer that ran on the PSP in 2006. The level design is pretty good with tons of different environments and unique obstacles to look out for. The problems only stem from the fact that it was originally released on the PSP, which means this was made for a handheld experience and not for the PS5 in 2024. Definitely a product of its time. On the presentation side of things, the game actually doesn't look that bad. The cutscenes are crusty as hell, don't get me wrong there, but I was surprised when the in-game models loaded in. They're smooth and rather impressive. A constant 30 frames per second experience on both the PS4 and PS5. The music is bang on too. Like I mentioned earlier, I haven't played any Jak and Daxter game in a while, but this game's soundtrack nails it on the head. I did run into a couple of glitches, but nothing that couldn't be solved with a simple rewind.
All in all, Daxter is well worth revisiting to anyone who's played it in their childhood. Relive the solo adventure once more on modern PlayStation hardware. Although it isn't the perfect experience with iffy controls and low-res cutscenes, it's still a charming 3D platformer that keeps the Jak and Daxter spirit. If you know nothing about the franchise, I would definitely start there. Not to say you can't jump into Daxter without them, I still believe this game stands on its own as a solid 3D platformer from the PSP era. If you want to jump in blindly, sure, go for it, but at least play the very first Jak and Daxter. Very happy with PlayStation's classic titles so far, and I hope that Ratchet & Clank Size Matters can deliver the same expectations. And yeah, that is all I have for today. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you guys have not already, you can subscribe. I put new videos up on Saturdays. You can follow me on social media at TV Sonic Gaming. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, pretty much everything at TV Sonic Gaming. And you can check out my podcast called the Travis and Damien Podcast, tutorial all games, movies, and anime every other week. And yeah, that is all I have for today. Thank you guys for watching this video once again. And I'll see you guys next time with more videos.